One Night Ultimate Supervillains is a game in the One Night Ultimate series that is free to 10 players, and I want to say that it's kind of the modge-podge of some of the best and not so best qualities of the series. There are going to be characters that are very similar, if not the exact same, as the other characters in the One Night Ultimate series, but I think it just kind of is a mixture to where it gets all of the best qualities in there. So, let's go over the teams inside of One Night Ultimate Supervillains.
So, the first team that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the neutral team inside of One Night Ultimate Supervillains. Now, the first character that we're going to be talking about is Mirror Man.
Now, Mirror Man's card does in fact say hero, and originally he is a part of the hero team. But the way that his abilities work is that Mirror Man will take a look at one of the cards that is in the center, and will become the role that he sees that is in the center. The key difference, however, is that because of this, it's possible that Mirror Man might become a villain that he sees in the middle, or just another character that wasn't in play. So there's always a bit of a gamble when it comes to Mirror Man, hence why he's more of a variable role than he is strictly a hero. Now, the Mad Scientist and the Intern are super special. The Mad Scientist essentially is the Tanner, in which he doesn't want to get caught, because, you know, villaining and stuff. The reason that I would recommend the One Night Ultimate app, specifically for One Night Ultimate Supervillains, is that the voice actor who does the One Night Ultimate Supervillains is different. And the real fun part about the app is that whenever the Mad Scientist goes in the night phase order, there's always some sort of backstory as to why the Mad Scientist believes that getting caught is his mission, because he's essentially the Tanner.
From next week's experiment in time travel devoured your goldfish, and now that little plastic thing on the end of everyone's shoelaces has come undone. Utterly confused by this turn of events, you'll only win if you get caught.
The Intern is another interesting role, because the Intern is going to wake up after the Mad Scientist and will search for the Mad Scientist's thumb, as the Intern's goal is to help the Mad Scientist in getting caught. However, if the Intern doesn't see the Mad Scientist, then she herself must be responsible for his experiments and try to get caught. Simple as that. This is the Supervillains team. This is the team that is trying to hide from the rest of the heroes and is trying not to get caught. Some of these abilities work like they do in previous games, but there's a key format difference with One Night Ultimate Supervillains in comparison to any of the other One Night Ultimate games. Because they are all villains, they all will wake up and try to find each other depending on who's in the game. But the key difference between the Supervillain team in comparison to the werewolves, the aliens, and the vampires is the fact that all of the supervillains will be doing their night actions at the same time. Treacherous will be going at the same time as Rapscallion. Rapscallion will be going at the same time as Dr. Peeker. They'll all be going at the same time. So, this is the list of abilities that they will be doing. Treacherous is essentially the Alpha Wolf. The henchman here, number 7, that you see there, is essentially just a dream wolf inside of One Night Ultimate Supervillain form. So the Treacherous will turn somebody else into another supervillain. Rapscallion is different because the Rapscallion is essentially the apprentice here, but on the villain team, who will have the ability to look at one of the center cards. Dr. Peeker is essentially a mystic wolf, who has the ability to look at any other player's card. So the supervillains have ways of getting tons of information to where they can try to bluff out the superhero team. So I think that the villains team fixes a lot of the problems with a lot of the other teams inside of the One Night Ultimate series. Lastly, as the biggest lineup inside of the One Night Ultimate Supervillains lineup, is our heroes, the ones who are protecting the good and trying to catch the evildoers in the act of their crimes. And a lot of these characters are incredibly familiar, but like I said, I feel that One Night Ultimate Supervillains is probably the most refined version of all the previous 4 games combined. Self-Awareness Girl is essentially the insomniac who has the ability to look at herself whenever she wakes up in the night phase. Switcheroo is essentially the troublemaker who has the ability to swap any 2 cards with any other players without looking at them. Evilometer is essentially the cow from One Night Ultimate Alien, to where she will stick out her fist during the night phase, and if there's any villains sitting next to Evilometer, then one villain must tap on Evilometer's fist, regardless of where they're sitting. Detector is essentially the seer, who has the ability to look at the card of any one player, or 2 cards from the middle. Flipper is the revealer, who has the ability to flip over anybody's card. If it is a hero, then that card stays face up, whereas if it is not on the hero team, then that card goes back face down. And that includes the innocent bystander. Voodoo Lou is essentially the witch, who has the ability to look at a card from the center, optionally, and then swap the card that Voodoo Lou looked at with any other player's card. Role Retriever is essentially the robber, who has the ability to exchange his card with any other player's card and look at that new card. And the key thing with Role Retriever is that the card that he looks at and what he became, if it's a card that goes later in the night, then that card does not wake up at all. So that's something to keep in mind. Annoying Lad essentially has the ability to look at one of his neighbors and repeatedly tap them on the shoulder, being as annoying as possible. This is kind of a verification role. Lastly, we have the Innocent Bystander, who is essentially just a villager on the village team. But the key difference with Innocent Bystander is that Innocent Bystander isn't a hero at all. He just simply wins alongside the hero team. So that is the key difference with a lot of the other abilities that the heroes have and what they are trying to accomplish. All of the setup rules for One Night Ultimate Supervillains will remain exactly the same as it is in any of the other One Night Ultimate games, with everybody receiving a card and being the only time that they can look at it. And if Temptress is in play, it will set up exactly as if there was an Alpha Wolf inside of One Night Ultimate Daybreak. Other than that, the night phase rules remain the same, the day phase rules remain the same, and you simply play it. It's honestly, again, it's one of those games where it's not that difficult to play, but it's a little bit more difficult to master, as One Night Supervillains simply is just the more kid-friendly version of One Night Ultimate Werewolf, as it's simply villains getting caught rather than, the whole lynching that happens in the other games, which might seem a little too dark. Plus the whole Cartoon Network kind of flair that the characters have. So now, the last thing that I'm going to explain is that in One Night Ultimate Supervillains is the fact of the night order, just for the heroes and villains and what have you. But the key thing is that One Night Ultimate Supervillains, while it can be played with the other games, is designed as more of a standalone in comparison to the others, to where you're really not going to want to integrate One Night Ultimate Supervillains into the other One Night Ultimate games. You're either going to generally want to play One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Daybreak, Alien, and Vampire, or play One Night Ultimate Supervillains. Which kind of sucks, but let's get to the last point. So, inside of One Night Ultimate Supervillains, this is the night order. Innocent Bystander won't ever wake up, just as a friendly reminder, but it'll go Mirror Man. Then the supervillains will all wake up and do their actions simultaneously, with Temptress, Dr. Peeker, and Rapscallion doing something. Then we have Evilometer. Then we have Mad Scientist, the Intern, Annoying Lad, Detector, Role Retriever, Voodoo Lou, Switcheroo, Self-Awareness Girl, and then lastly, Flipper. Does it kind of suck that One Night Ultimate Supervillains can't really be played with the other games? Yeah, but if we're being honest, like I said, I think that One Night Ultimate Supervillains is very, very focused in what it is that it's trying to accomplish. In the fact that it polishes all of the roles and kind of picks the best from all of the previous games to kind of add and puts their little spin on them to where the heroes have the most information on their side, whereas the villains have the most chaos added to them in comparison. Where honestly, I think it's pretty good. I think the fact that it's also structured to where all of the information for the hero team is added early, with the chaos rolls being in the middle and kind of the verification rolls at the end, I think it just kind of makes it work. So yeah, that's my honest thoughts on One Night Ultimate Supervillains. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.